How to make a video. This is crucially for my mother. She can't function or remember shit anymore, and she's already moved on. But I thought that whoever's working with her either shares this in the way that they do, or use their psychology to make this more of their victory lap. So either way, it's always a loss. My mother would wanted to know, because she was, very protective. And when I was younger and I go into Mary Grimes High School, I went there in 2 separate sessions. Once I went there and I didn't attend, and I passed like 3 or 4 days. I was there for like 3 or 4 months, and then all of a sudden I started skipping. I skipped a few days, like 3 days. You can't miss more than 3 days in a semester, I think, before they kick you out. So I had to go back to Newman Smith, and then I was back at Newman Smith, and I re-registered again and tried again, and they let me in to try to get my high school diploma, and then I to register then for a GED. Well, my mother doesn't know about this. My mother would be very pissed to know about what these motherfuckers did to me. There was a teacher that I had that I think was for language arts. It could have been math. It could have also been math, because we went into this class, and I remember there was like this sort of tall, square block hole-looking thing in the middle of the class, which was very reading. It was a very tiny-looking class. And there was like desks all around the fucking walls and shit. And it was a very odd-looking class. And when I went there was a woman that looked like she could have been the mother of Madison. And I started going to that class, and this is a very pretty woman. She was very pretty, very attractive. This is after I had already slept with Raquel, and I'm going to school, and I went there sober all the time. Went there a couple high, smoking weed a couple times, and then this is when Mike started having all the parties at our house, and I smoked meth a couple of times and went to school. I didn't go smoke meth and then went to school. I was hungover from the weekend, and then I went to school. And I only did this like twice, because I didn't like going to school on any narcotics or anything, other than smoking weed when I was younger. But I went there, and I wasn't all tweaked out. I was just strung out from the weekend. And I recall her bringing up topics about the sexual molestation, like in reference that was going through her mind, and she had a picture. She had a picture of her and a blonde-haired, blue-eyed guy that looked like Ken Cooper. And she told me, and I talked to her, and she was very friendly to talk to, but when I talked to her, I could tell that she had premeditated ideas about me. I don't know where it came from, but I just knew that you're too interested in me. I'm just some Mexican kid on a fucking corner. I'm just some Mexican kid. Why do you give a fuck about my life? Other than, you're a teacher, you kind of just do your thing, because you could tell when people really wanted to be a teacher and people were just sort of there being a substitute, or like they're just doing there for a paycheck. Like, that they get hired and they pay them their money, their couple grand, to sit down and it wasn't like you sit there in front of everybody and have a discussion about the class you're studying. It literally just gives you a piece of paperwork, and it's just quiet in the class, and everyone is working on their own packets of paperwork in different grades, different semesters. So what was just assigned to me was different from everybody else. But I got to sit in my own cubicle or whatever and just kind of work on whatever I was. But my mother doesn't know about this. This is where it began. This is where it also began at this school, where it was about my dad's money. This is where they start to figure out Julian's twin. This is also when they start to figure out Ken Cooper's in charge, and Sarah Cooper. And this lady started to act very frustrated, and I just felt them shoot my chest right now, closing the door, and then it's this right there in the direction of the crucifix. So there's the guy downstairs, and but like I said, I was in that class, she referenced like, he goes, oh yeah, we had a kid. He goes, yeah, I got a daughter. And they're going full-blown investigation because they know that Madison, I think, supposedly is Ken Cooper's daughter. In my opinion, I think this guy's a faggot. He's living a double life, without a doubt. A double life, without a doubt. There's, without a doubt. But they knew that Madison is actually Ken Cooper's daughter, and she was bringing it up in my class because they want to know what I want to. They want to know what I do know about the house and my dad. That's number one. They want to know everything about what's going on. There's this full investigation of, let's see how stupid Hector is. Let's see what kind of character of a bad thief he is. We're going to label him that. Take his money. We're fucking heroes, and they did. That's exactly what they fucking did. There's no shortcuts to this. This is not me persecuting. It's very cold cut in front. I'm in charge. I take this is what we're gonna do, and they fucking took everything for themselves. I ended up with nothing. For 7 years of labor, for 7 years of this shit, and my future taken away from me, and then it's very disturbing because there's no one to run to for this, for retaliation or vengeance or getting even or justice, which is most important. There's not. I couldn't express this enough. It's placing the white flag. That's it. They successfully did do that, and with excuses, because there was too many of them parasitically. Sarah Cooper, the whites, your white man, blue eyes, he's a detective. He incarcerates people for 30 or 40 years, life sentences, and even death probably sentences. To put human beings on death row and put them in prison for 30 or 40 years, and you go to your home every single night comfortably, is not a normal way to live. To incarcerate people like that as an officer, but then to do it as a detective and watch Frankie knowing that he's getting raped, and then putting Kenneth at the radio station, oh, it's not his fault. It was a whole surfboard ride for Sarah. And it's very difficult because you're never going to be able to put down white. White always comes first, and it's always going to be more dominant. It's always going to be off the hook more, because these motherfuckers, they weren't there to help. It's not that we didn't want because this is a race thing. It's because that's what they did. They took advantage of it. And there's other sympathetic empathy that you want to feel for these people than it is for me and my mother, because you can use my mother as a trash can, and that's what they did. So I think it's important for me to say something about this because my mother doesn't know about this. But I don't know that these people know about this. So when my mother starts to get mad and angry at me, when there was a number of feuds about the money in the house, my dad, and then there wasn't very much feud between me and Frankie about the money in the house. It was just kind of like an agreement, but kind of like I could tell Frankie was kind of keeping something secret, because I also knew keep him with that sort of vibe that he needs to keep this as a secret a little bit, was because he was older, and because he was just going to be the older brother to make sure there's an even dividing of this. So I didn't, and I particularly didn't always trust Frankie. I thought that, I talked about that, he ended up spending, he didn't have a job and he was buying Subway sandwiches, and I didn't even understand how he was doing this, because I remember this, and we went to go rent movies, and I wanted to find out, where are you getting this fucking money, But anyway, I thought it was important. Even my dad's truck got placed in Mexico. Frankie drove that truck for like 3 years. It was his truck, my dad's truck. He drove that red pickup truck we had, that old school, old Dodge Ram pickup truck. And her boyfriend got it. My mom's boyfriend, Lucio, got it, and he took it to Mexico and took it for himself, and my mom just gave it to him. And instead of letting it sit out there in the front yard until I finally wanted to get into the car. And but I thought I'd talk about it. I thought it was important for me to say something because, my mother has no idea what I'm going through at school, but these people are manipulating a teenage kid. So when people say, oh look, Mr. Barry, this motherfucker did this, oh no, it's this motherfucker that did this. How do these people know these people that are coming at me, this lady that was in this class, they knew that I slept with Raquel, 100%. And you know what she said? These are her exact words. And she goes, because I talked to her and I was sober. I only went there high a couple of sessions. I probably went to the class probably a total of maybe 10 times before I ended up finally dropping out. And when I was in her class, she said, I asked her, and she goes, yeah, you're going to have to start coming at night. Yeah, if you don't have a car. And she goes, yeah, you're going to have to start coming at night. And she goes like this. And the reason is because they threw Raquel at me. To them, it's like throwing the nigger. That's exactly what it is. There's not any difference. There's no conversation about throwing the leftover black shit. That's the mentality of it. And so when she says, yeah, you have to come at night, yeah, you're going to have to. And then she looks at the picture like, yeah. So she's portraying herself as they know it's involved with Kenneth and Headcrack. So my mother doesn't know this. They're completely doing away with what they want, and I'm such a vulnerable state that they wanted to play hero with my mother, but they didn't even know what I did, what I was responsible for. And they successfully did it. They went off in a nice Mercedes and had a great time and looked pretty. Because that's what Ken and Sarah Cooper really were, but feel sorry for them because they know how to mismangle the situation because it's a full game. It's a full game. My mother would have been pissed because my mother since when I was younger that I was sort of like this kind of baton carrying kid. If, in my opinion, I think Frankie would have crumbled to the ground beyond anything you could imagine, even more, had they went after me. Because if you go after what's secure, then everything else you can take. And since I was the way I was with my family and Frankie and, whatever, chasing these people away, and they claimed that I didn't really do anything and didn't know about it, well, what happens is that it's all over. Frankie crumbles, more sexual molestations probably happens, he has no idea, and it feels like somebody just shot me with a laser, it's fucking bleeding, look at this. They just shot something in my chin, and you can see this blood. It's like pus. It's like a mixture of fluid and look at this shit. Look how much blood there is. They just shot me with a laser beam. There's all this fucking blood that's coming out. So anyway, I gotta go wash my hands and look at this. Look, you can see all that. This is right on my chin. I don't get pimples there. Yeah. Put a hole in my fucking, it says like fluid, like mixed with blood and like kind of watery. Anyway, so I thought I'd make a video. My mother has no idea that this is happening, that they're doing this to me in school. How do you think that mismanages of, my dad's dead now, and the money, don't tell Hector, it's Keynote 979 to be for the hip hop station.